So what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about something that happened back in November 4th of 2009. There were various government agents from various departments descended on our small clinic in November 4th, 2009. And I was chosen for some reason that I'm not sure about for a RAC audit, and I'll explain to you what the RAC audit is. And you know, and it ended up, it was like 8 different investigations on me, small town doctor. So anyway, it's just very, very interesting that this happened. So first I'm going to explain what a RAC audit is. It's a recovery audit contractor is what they call it. The mission is to detect and recover improper Medicare payments to healthcare providers. Background, it was created through the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services required to make permanent in all states by 2010 under the Tax Relief and Healthcare Act of 2006. So it sounds like a good idea just to make sure that you know, you hear about the Medicare abuse, selling things to patients that they never get or making up patients, that kind of thing. So that's the purpose of it. Cost to taxpayers, net loss in some cases, probably enormous net loss in my case. Unclear if there's any net gain, and then there's the cost of the bureaucracy. So when you hear about these Medicare audits on these people that are making up care, you know, and maybe millions of dollars down in Florida for selling prosthetic limbs that they never really sold, when you hear about that, keep in mind that there are a lot of doctors like me that they lost, you know, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars on. So keep that in mind. So that's what the RAC audit is. Sounds like it's well intentioned. And exposing fraud, making restitution. You know, if somebody's done something bad, making restitution. If they were fraudulent towards Medicare, it's not a bad thing to for them to have a penalty. But at what cost? Major emotional and financial cost to the audited physician. Vast majority of whom made honest mistakes, if any. So the vast majority of the doctors that are not people that are intentionally doing anything wrong, probably honest mistakes, if they made any mistakes whatsoever. So that's a big cost, huge emotional and financial cost to the audited physician. Underbilling by physicians. A lot of physicians actually, they underbill. They charge a lower level because they're afraid of an audit, afraid there'll be a red flag. Loss of freedom is the RAC auditors have the power to shut you down. And they actually, these RAC auditors that come into these doctors' offices and clinics, they actually get paid for the, you know, a percentage of the amount that they get off these doctors. So these are not like independent, objective people. They actually get paid a percentage of what they make off of the alleged fraud. Increase in government bureaucracy proportional to the loss of freedom of the citizenry. I think that's becoming really clear. You know, and I just want to put a plug for doctors. I've been a physician for 25 years, and I had training before that. So I've been around physicians a lot for the last 35 years, 35 years. And I'm going to make a generalization that, you know, as a population of people, I mean, they are some of the most caring, you know, wonderful people. You know, they put in 11 to 18 years after high school, you know, the supposed prime. I think we're in the prime of our life. But anyway, a lot of people think that's the prime of life. And they spend that studying so that they can help people. So I really like doctors. I really appreciate them. I think of course there are bad ones, but the majority of them really mean well. And so, you know, in my opinion, it's okay, it's fine to regulate businesses, but to have this, you know, overreaching, overbearing amount of regulation, I don't think is necessary for people that are in a profession that basically, the vast majority of them, in my opinion, they mean well. Okay, so like I said, there's 8 of them on here. I think I have all 8 investigations on here. Here's the first one. April of 2009, it was the end of April 2009, some of my Medicaid patients contacted me. Ended up being 5 of them contacted me. The first one that contacted me, and all the stories were basically the same. They said somebody from Medicaid called me, his name was Mark, and he called me and didn't give me a last name, but called me and he said, you know, I want to ask you about your doctor, Dr. Bukacek. What do you think of her as a person? What do you think of her as a doctor? Have you had any problems with her? And then, you know, and I heard she prays with you. What is that about? How much time does she spend praying with you? And the 5 patients that came to me and told me about it was all kind of the same story. So they were asking them, they're trying to basically get my patients to say negative things about me, Medicaid patients. And the first patient that told me about it, you know, and he said this person from it and saying all these things, and this is true story. And he's absolutely darling. And he has paranoid schizophrenia. I figured he made it up, or he was delusional. And then 4 more people came and told me the same thing. So basically, I believe it. These are 5 different people came to me and told me that somebody from Medicaid called them. We called Medicaid and we said, you know, what's going on? I've got 5 patients that contacted me. What is going on? Oh, we don't know anything about it. Not sure what, you know, oh gosh, nothing, no big deal. But I knew something was going on, but it's like, whatever. I'm a little busy to worry about it. Okay, investigation number 2. This was July of 2009. So that was April 2009. This was the first time that the government actually manifested and came to brought something to my clinic, and it was a letter, you know, from various fraud departments, and it was July 2009, and there was about 13 charts, somewhere 13 to 15 charts, and they were, you know, they wanted the records for those 13 to 15 patients and said, you know, we're investigating for fraud, that kind of thing. And again, it's like, you know, I'm kind of busy, you know, just copy the stuff. Okay, so that was July of 2009. And this is the letter, July 29th, Medicaid Fraud Control Unit, part of the Montana Division of Criminal Investigation. You look at big letters on the top, you get a letter from the Division of Criminal Investigation, Department of Justice, State of Montana. Steve Bullock was the Attorney General at that time. Now he's our governor. So that's the letter that I got in July. I just kind of went about my business, made the copies for them that they needed of the patient charts. And then there was investigation number 3, and this was about 66 charts, and this was September of 2009. And so I figured at this point, you know, this is the 3rd investigation. It's government, it's Medicare, it's Medicaid. You know, something's brewing here. And this letter I got, I don't know if you could read that, but it says Federal Bureau of Investigation. Yes. So anyway, so I got a letter from the federal, you know, so I'm getting all these letters, you know, Criminal Investigative Unit, FBI. This is from the United States of America. So now the United States of America, you guys thought you were the United States of America? No, this is the United States of America, Department of Justice subpoena, where they're asking for those records. And they're asking them to be mailed to them. So anyway, now it's the United States of America subpoenaing me. At this point, something was clearly brewing. So I figured something was happening at this point. And my response was basically to take pictures. All right? So this is me this was the 66 charts. And I wish I had taken one standing next to me, because it would have been probably twice my height. But anyway, these are the copies that my poor staff had to do. I had to pay people overtime. So this is kind of my little peekaboo shot, you know, behind them. Photos are very important. This was like, it's like, hi, Mom, I'm being investigated by the United States of America for fraud. Hi, Mom. So that's my hi, Mom picture. Okay, so the 13 charts, it wasn't that big of a stack. It was maybe this big, and we mailed them. But this I didn't feel comfortable mailing. This is confidential patient information, right? You saw the piles. We're talking copy paper boxes full of these charts. I did not feel comfortable mailing these. They might fall out of the truck. You know, people's confidential information could be spewed all over the road or anything. So I felt very uncomfortable. So what we did is I had one of my staff drive it to the FBI in Helena, which seems reasonable, right? Because we don't want these things getting lost. So drove them down there, and I gave the FBI a bill. I said, it cost me $5,000 for the staff and the toner and the paper. It cost me $5,000. I gave the FBI a $5,000 bill, a little invoice. And and the person that took I mean, we didn't really think we were going to get paid, of course, but it's kind of the principal thing. This cost me a lot of money, and I really work hard for my money. You need to pay me for my work. They said, no, we don't do that. And I said, well, I at least need you to give me some kind of receipt that you received these charts. This is confidential patient information. And so we did get some kind of acknowledgement that we were there and brought it, but we didn't get the $5,000. But that was more symbolic than anything. But anyway, it was the principle of the thing. But that was kind of fun. But all right, so that was the FBI delivery. Then investigation number 4. And this was the real fun. But here's what happened. Okay, so we're getting letters from the FBI, Criminal Investigative Services, you know, criminal this, United States, federal, state, you know, all these kind of things, you know, Attorney General, all these kinds of things are coming at us. The girl that was working there the day that they came, November 4th, she was a 21-year-old young lady. It was the first job she'd ever had in her life. She just happened to start on this day, right? Like I said, never had a job. You know, she's kind of insecure. She's just a really sweet girl. But that's the first job she'd ever had. And she had a dad who was a real practical jokester. So when the FBI guys walked in and they had on I think they were kind of dressed on their upper part, but they had like, I don't know, like Nazi-looking boots on, and they walked in and they did this kind of lockstep thing like this, and then they brought their cards up, the two guys, like this, and she thought he was joking. She thought her dad had put a practical joke, and she pointed at these guys and laughed. So if you could picture this, so this was the FBI and the criminal investigators' introduction to Hosanna Healthcare, is this young lady pointing at them and laughing. So that was the first thing when they came in the door. All right, so what's the expected response when the FBI, the United States, is coming at you? What is the expected response to government investigations and agents? Right? Ah! That's the expected response, right, when government agents come. So basically, they want you to be in the fetal position. They want you to be afraid. And, okay, so that's the expected response versus the Hosanna Healthcare response to government agents. So this is the young lady. She's pointing at him and laughing. And then she looks over at my little Teresa, little tiny lady who'd been dealing with the investigation for months. And this is what Teresa looked like. She wasn't smiling. Her lips were blue. From what I understand, her eyes were like quivering. And then the young lady who had pointed and laughed knew that this really wasn't a joke. So then this young lady, Teresa, she brings the FBI agents back to me, and I'm seeing patients, and we're kind of separated, and I'm seeing patients, and I'm walking back and forth, and she comes back, and she says, Dr. Bukacek, the FBI here, and they're here to investigate you. And the guy's standing right behind her, you know. And what I did, I said, you got to be kidding. I said, you're here to investigate me. I said, I said, this is great. I said, you know, I was having kind of a bad day. I was feeling really, really unimportant. You are making me feel so special today. I'm serious. And this is like, we didn't know they were coming. This is just the girl pointing, me laughing and pointing. I don't think they quite knew what to do with it. I was never that cute, but anyway, you get the idea. And then the rest of the day, so they're coming in and out, and they're gathering data, and they're walking around, kind of trying to listen to things and all this kind of stuff. And every time I'd see him, it's like, every time I see you, you remind me how special I am and how important I am. Every time, whoa, you're still here. This is great. Whoa. So seriously, throughout the day, I'd be walking back and forth, seeing patients, and just friendly as can be. Only got cross with them one time, and that was when, okay, my further response, hospitality. Love your enemies and do good. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. So they come in, we already do the, wow, you made me feel so good. Thank you so much for coming today. And by the way, if you want to sit in the back, we got a little, like a lunch place where you can sit down. We got, there's food, drink in the fridge, just friendly as could be. And they said, no, we don't need any of that. We brought our food. We got a van. We'll do our workout in the van. So then my physician assistant, Matt, who was working with me, he comes in and he says, Annie, this is not a van, okay? He said, this is a 50-foot command mobile unit. I'm serious. The poor people at 2 Medicine, Colleen's there now. I mean, the parking lot's not that big, okay? You look at how the size, this guy's that small. And so I was like, whoa, go get me my camera. So while somebody's going to get my camera so I can take a picture of this, I hope he didn't lose his job over this. But anyway, he's sitting in the truck, and I said, wow, this is amazing that you're here. What brings you? I'm just a diesel truck driver. I don't really know what's going on. Well, can I get a picture of you? Can you come out? I'll take a picture of you. So he stood out there. Like I said, I hope he didn't lose his job. But it's like, oh, but look at that. State of Montana Mobile Command Post. Wow, now I'm really feeling important. So here's another, hi, Mom. Hi, Mom, I'm being investigated for fraud again. Hi, Mom. So there's the hi, Mom shot. I don't know very much about technical things, and so I thought that this antenna on the top, and it's probably so that their computers, so whatever there were 10 to 15 people in the back of this thing typing things, and anyway, so probably that was for the transmission of their computers, right? But in my mind, I was thinking that they were in there, like, listening to what's going on. Like, are we shredding things, or are we chewing our fingernails? Are we all worried? That was my little dream, because what was going on, my Matt, who's my PA, was praying, God forgive them, they don't know not what they're doing. And the women in the office, the young ones anyway, were talking about how cute the guys were. okay? This is what they would have heard. So that was kind of my little fantasy of what that was, but it probably wasn't. But anyway, you know, oh, shh, look at that. That's just amazing. So what to do with these photos? You know, what did I do? It's like as soon as I saw the Mobile Command Unit and got my photos done and talked to the, you know, the diesel truck driver, I called the newspaper. I mean, that's what people need to do. I called the newspaper. I said, you got to see this. I don't know how long this truck's going to be here. I've taken some photos. This is crazy that they're doing this. Can you come over? Maybe you can interview the FBI guys and find out why they're here doing this. And so I called the newspaper and asked them to come. And I don't know if they got wind of it or what, but the Mobile Command Unit disappeared. So anyway, so I think it's a really important concept. It's one of the things I want to drive home to anybody else that ever gets in this kind of situation is shine the light. The liberties of, this is Patrick Henry, the liberties of people never were, nor ever will be secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them. These are all government workers. This is our government at work. Your tax dollars, they're at work. So, you know, shine the light. So like I said, I called the newspaper, and that week, you know, that was a Tuesday that they came, I believe, and then all that week I'm seeing patients, and you know, I try to kind of warn them of what's going to happen because I did call the newspaper. I wanted this to be in the newspaper, but I didn't know, you know, where it was going to be or if they were even going to print it, that kind of thing. So I started telling my patients about what happened. They probably, you know, some of them probably saw the people coming and going with the Nazi boots on, and my patients prayed for me. So it was really sweet. It was a very sweet week, and I actually, I know this sounds really nuts, but I didn't feel any fear at all, like zero. And the only cross interaction that I had with them was, it was like day 2 of this investigation. One of the FBI guys came and he said, you know, I asked you for such and such reports and you didn't do them. And I said, you know what? I said, I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning working on your reports. I'm here for my patients. I am not here to serve you. And he backed off, you know. But anyway, that's the only time I got cross. And I got a little more gangster than that with him, but anyway. All right, so I think it's really key if any of these kinds of things, or you even suspect that they are, take photos, take videos. And so this isn't, they ended up putting it up on the front page. And this was something that was later in the newspaper that I was able to get a picture of, but they actually put it on the front page. God bless them. So it was Tuesday and Wednesday I was being investigated, and the next Sunday they put it on the front page, which I really appreciate that. Not because the photo looked good, but just because I think it's important. So you don't know, you don't know what's going to happen. Most people, let's just face it, we're human. You know, we figure guilty until proven innocent. That's kind of a way that our brains go, you know, unless you've ever been investigated before. Then you don't do that. But most people, they think, oh, you know, she must have done something wrong. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to come out in the paper. Some people will probably believe me. Most people will think I've done something wrong, I'm sure. But it was really, this community is fantastic for this kind of thing. And it was heartwarming, the amount of community backup. I expected support from at least some of my patients. And what happened was I got 10 new patients that week. People actually liked it. They called up and, I want her to be my doctor. And he was an atheist, so and he's not somebody that, you know, politically or spiritually or anything that we have anything in common. He wrote a letter to the editor in support of me. So it's not that he's my friend or that we have a lot in common, but he just knew something was wrong and he knew this wasn't right and he didn't appreciate it. So I got backup from business owners, atheists, all kinds of people. So we live in a great community here. So this is Thomas Paine again. He that would make his own liberty secure must guard even his enemy from oppression. For if he violates this duty, he establishes a precedent that will reach to himself. So I think that's a real important concept. And we must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately. And that was Ben Franklin at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So in this community, my experience was people backed me up big time. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how this government program works. And again, I want to say the majority of the people that I dealt with over this period of time, because it didn't get settled till January 2014. So we're talking a long period of time dealing with a lot of government workers, bureaucrats, employees, you know, that kind of thing. The majority of these people are just doing their job. They were, you know, with the exception, I would say, of Mr. Bullock, who's now our governor. I don't know how you guys feel about the Beverly Hillbillies, but remember, I don't remember Granny Clampett, and she said, that man is more crooked than a dog's hind leg. That's Governor Bullock. The rest of the people that I dealt with, I mean, crooked as a dog's hind leg. The rest of the people, they're just kind of doing their job. I think they probably think they're doing something good. I don't know. But anyway, but it's still the government that at the top of this whole thing. This was not meant for anybody's good. Okay, so Sun Tzu, The Art of War, a great book. Victory should be followed up, and the defeated enemy, no chance to recover. You know, April, they come after me. July, they come after me. September, they come after me. And I think, you know, a lot of people would be in the fetal position at stage 2. I don't know. But you don't get any chance to recover. You know, you've just sent out the 13, and they come with 66, and then they show up on your doorstep. So, you know, those first 4, it's just one after another after another. And this is Saul Alinsky, Rules for Radicals, same kind of concept, big socialist, communist. The major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. You know, as it turns out, I mean, they were investigating me since, at least 2009, probably 2008. They could have sent all the investigations at once, right? But they got to hit you, hit you, hit you, hit you. I mean, this is as old as Sun Tzu, and that was thousands of years ago. So it's very, very intentional. Then there was investigation number 6. Okay, so it was November of 2009 that they came, and then this one was just 3 patient charts. It was pretty minor, but it was, again, you know, well, we got to do one more thing. So 2009 to February 2011, I heard nothing from them. I thought, well, they didn't find anything. They're going to leave me alone. Then February 2011, I heard from my attorney. He says, Annie, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is there are no criminal charges. And I said, well, duh, of course not. I would never do anything criminal. How could there be criminal charges? And my attorney, who's had a lot of experience, he said, no, Annie, you don't understand. You don't have to have intentionally done anything wrong. They could still get you for criminal charges. I thought, ugh. Do we really have a justice system? I don't think so. Well, I already knew we didn't. But anyway, so that was the good news. There's no criminal charges. The bad news is there are civil charges, and you will owe a large sum of money. So, 6 inches of paperwork. So I went up to my attorney's office and got it. Okay, there were all kinds of graphs. I'll show you some testimonies against me from former employees. And of course, they didn't include any of the positive things. They picked people that I fired or that embezzled from me or something. So part of the 6 inches of paperwork is former employees. They know what they're doing. Alleged overpayment calculations, that I was overpaid from my Medicaid patients, which is already charity. Charges submitted fraudulent claims, misrepresentation of services, upcoding, manipulation of covered services. Customer service complaints, none. They couldn't find anybody to say anything bad about me, which is really sweet. These are the graphs. 6 inches, these silly graphs. This is just a small sampling of the graphs. This I thought was interesting. Okay, this was on the same page as the one that said no patient complaints or no client complaints. It says, she was chosen, okay, this was me. She was chosen by the American Board of Internal Medicine as one of 6 physician consultants for her quality assurance work in their diabetes practice improvement module. So basically, they flew me to Philadelphia. This was back in 2000, and I was the only in the trenches doctors. The other ones that were there were all heads of like Mayo Clinic, diabetes department, things like that. So it's like, my point is not to brag. My point is, I'm a really good doctor, and they should know that by this, okay? So anyway, so that I thought was interesting. So that was one of the parts, okay? Here's the probable red flags. This is probably how this started. I provided, this provider, that's me, ranked 11th out of 154 internal medicine providers in Montana for using code 99214. So there's 99211, 99212, 99213, 99214, and 99215. And I was ranked 11th that uses this higher code. Okay. And the reason for that, for the 25 years I've been a doctor, and I haven't gotten burned, my patients haven't gotten burned, I handle a lot of care over the phone. Anybody who's my patient could tell you that. So a lot of the 99213 type of billing that they make people come in for, I treat over the phone. So I'm going to have less 99213s. Does that make sense? So percentage-wise, I have the highest. Well, that's because I take care of a lot of things when I can over the phone. Most clinics will have that person with a minor complaint come in and see their PA so they can get money. I've never found that necessary, and I've never gotten burned. I handle a lot of things over the phone, so I'm going to have a smaller number. That's why I ranked 11th. first out of 6 internal medicine providers in Montana for procedure code, that for prolonged service codes. My patients could also tell you I spend a half an hour with follow-ups, or I schedule a half an hour, sometimes it takes longer. I schedule an hour for new patients and for physical exams. And sometimes it'll go an hour and a half just because of the amount of problems. And so I charge extra to Medicare for that time. It's something that's allowed. It's something reasonable. Because I'm first, maybe nobody else schedules an hour. These are probably the red flags. The thing is, I've been billing the same way well, gosh, at least since 2003 when I started Hosanna Healthcare. I've been billing the same way. So why in 2008, 2009 did they decide something's wrong with it? It doesn't even make sense. Now, this is going to be really hard to explain. I gave the same talk to a bunch of physicians, and it probably made sense to them. It might not make sense to you guys, but I want to point out something. Okay, so this is something that when they would give me a, let's say they would say I was inappropriate in one of my 99214s or in that other, multiple digit number where they said, and I had to go back and I had to defend every single one of them, which I did. This is what they would send with each claim where they felt that I had done something wrong. And the important thing on here that I want to read, okay, so this is based on what Medicare says. Based on medical advice from the practicing physician, Medicare can only pay for services that meet this standard. Items and services must have been established as safe and effective. They must be consistent with symptoms or diagnosis of the illness under treatment, makes sense. Necessary and consistent with generally accepted professional medical standards, and not furnished primarily for the convenience of the patient or the physician. So if you can kind of read between, I mean, it sounds kind of nice from a consumer standpoint that we're holding doctors to these standards. But when it comes to billing, how can a bureaucrat, a government bureaucrat, possibly decide what billing is appropriate? How can the other doctors in the community possibly set a standard when we're all individuals and I treat patients differently and I spend more time with them and that kind of thing? I mean, how can there possibly be a standard for that? And the thing is, and they talk about for the convenience of the patient. Okay, when I spend an hour and a half with a patient, if I was one of the doctors that sees a patient every 10 minutes or every 20 minutes, I could have made a whole lot more money if I had seen a whole bunch of people and crammed them in that period of time than I make if I spend that much time with the patient and get this little extra $15 or whatever the government pays. So my point is they have no business, the other doctors in the community have no business determining the billing, and the government bureaucrats certainly have no business doing that. And in my particular case, the amount that I bill, if I billed like most clinics, I could actually make more money. So I'm making less. I'm saving the insurance companies money. I'm saving the government money. I'm saving my patients money. And they're going to throw that at me. So this is another thing from Sun Tzu. Invincibility lies in the defense, the possibility of victory in the attack. And I'm going to go back to that a little bit more because invincibility lies in the defense. Like I said, I went back and I took every one of their little ones where they've said that I didn't bill properly, I overbilled or whatever, and I took every single one of those. It was very time consuming, and I addressed every single one of those. So that was my defense. Okay, so this was what I'm going to call investigation number 7. This was a really fun one because this one they threatened me with 75 years in prison. So this was it was just kind of a sweet little thing. So anyway, it was 150 patients. When I figured out in 2010 that with my Medicare patients, like Medicaid, you lose money with Medicaid patients. And then we talked about this the last time I spoke here. With Medicare patients, they haven't paid well, and it came to a certain point where you actually lose money. Like you don't get enough money from your Medicare patients to even open the door. Okay, so I had to develop a different payment system for my Medicare patients so that I could make ends meet with them. Well, Medicare didn't like that very much, and so they sent. So this is investigation number 7. And if you can see, I had the full letter up there, but it was from a kind of an innocent government bureaucrat, so I didn't want to have her name up there. But it said $2,000 or imprisonment of not more than 6 months or both per item or service. So 150 patients. $2,000, that's $300,000. And it would be 75 years in prison. So basically I got 3 letters from this threatening me with $300,000 fine and 75 years in prison. That started in April of 2011. Are we having fun yet? So anyway, and the woman that sent it, and like I said, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt that she's just an innocent bureaucrat. And she would use a lot of very subjective type of phrases like, you know, we don't agree, we don't approve, we don't think it's a good idea to do this. And I said, show me the statute. Show me the statute that shows I've done something wrong. Show me. I want to see the statute. And then she sent me, she said, well, look in the Federal Registry. Now, if anybody's ever looked at the Federal Registry, it's 100,000 pages long. And I said, can you be a little more specific? So she got it down to, I think it was a page, what page was it? Anyway, she got it down to like 18 pages. And this was from 1998. And it had nothing to do with medical billing, all right? So throw the Federal Registry at somebody that has 100,000 pages in it, and then throw them 18 pages from 1998 that isn't even pertinent, okay? So anyway, this is a different attorney. And he said the same thing. Annie, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is your documentation and contracts are excellent, okay? The bad news is there's a government bureaucrat after you and you don't have the resources to fight it, okay? This is what my attorney said. Two different attorneys, they both say good news, bad news. Like, I said, you gotta be kidding. My documents are perfect, the contracts with the patients were perfect, and they could still get me? He said, yes, it's the government, and they can continue going after you, and you don't have the finances. You're a general internist, all right? You don't have the finances to fight them. So anyway, this is an attorney that specializes in concierge medicine, and I got him a little more involved. I stopped trying to take care of things myself and got him involved. This is what would have happened if they had succeeded. At a minimum, complete destruction of my capacity to provide medical care to Medicare patients. I mean, that would have been a minimum because I can't afford to see them without these extra payments. The larger clinics that are hospital-owned can because they get a facility fee. They get paid twice. The smaller time physicians, the solo practitioners, the small groups, we get paid once, and it's not enough to keep the lights on, and that's true. So at a minimum, it would be complete destruction of my capacity to provide medical care to Medicare patients, who I love. The threat, 75 years imprisonment and $300,000 fine. I mean, just stunning. 10 days later, my attorney calls. No, did he text me? He didn't even call me. He said, Annie, see the following message. This was much too easy. Let's talk when you have a chance. I'm happy for you. Basically, they threw it out. I'm still here. I'm not imprisoned. So it was really, I think it was in the realm of miraculous. I mean, this is an attorney that's dealt with this kind of thing, and he said this was much too easy. So I give this excellent attorney credit, and but I give God the credit. Okay, now this is notice the date. I mean, December 23rd, I get this letter from the Department of Justice. This is the trolling of Dr. Annie Bookachek and Hosanna Healthcare. So they sent it out December 23rd. I mean, that's 2 days before Christmas. Merry Christmas, Dr. Bookachek. Hope you have a nice time. I didn't have time to get to it for a while, but this is back to the first investigation that I told you about, or the first, how many was it, 6 investigations that I told you about, where it says overpayments by the Medicare and Medicaid programs. Medicare has estimated its total overpayments, so I was overpaid $179,087.23. And Medicaid has estimated its total overpayments at almost $10,000, $9,858.57. Says okay, so they're saying that that's how much I was overpaid. It says under the False Claims Act, Dr. Bookachek is liable for up to treble the overpayment amounts in addition to civil penalties. So they could triple it times that, plus $11,000 per claim. Now in that 6 pages, there were a lot of claims. It's the policy of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Montana to resolve cases under the False Claims Act for no less than double damages, which in this case would be $385,367.44. And then if you add the $11,000 per claim, I added it up, and we're looking at $4.5 million. And then there was something on there. Oh, I should have highlighted this. So we're looking at $4.5 million, right? At a minimum, we're looking at $385,000. In the event Dr. Bookachek claims financial hardship that precludes her from being able to pay the double damages, we must be willing to provide, we have to provide them with some kind of proof that I can't afford to pay $385,000 right now. And then, like I said, it could have been $4.5 million. And the thing is, this is just Medicare and Medicaid. When the fraud investigators came in, there was also a Blue Cross Blue Shield fraud investigator. And what would happen once Medicare and Medicaid get their pound of flesh, Oh. Then Blue Cross Blue Shield comes in. So really, it would have come out to probably $5 million fines for me. So anyway, that was December 23rd. So I hired a different attorney. The first guy is he's just a great guy, but it wasn't his specialty. And I got to work. And I tell you, I went through every claim and all that. So I sent back, they sent me 6 inches. I sent them about 24 inches of paperwork. But anyway, so I want to talk to you a little bit about offense and defense. I've already covered some of it. This is really interesting. When the FBI came in, when they came into my clinic November 4th, 2009, the FBI guy, nice guy, he came up to, seemed nice anyway, he came up to me later and he said, you know, he said, don't worry about anything. I said, I'm not worried about anything. What do you mean, don't worry? And he said, there won't be any criminal charges. I said, well, of course not. Again, I said, like I said to my attorney 2 years later. And then when I talked to my attorney later, this attorney, the next attorney that I got, I said, how did he know? They're just coming in there for the first time. They've only had, I said, how would they know there's not going to be any criminal charges before they've even looked at all my files? And he said, I would estimate, this is my attorney, they probably sent 40 moles in there to see you, 40 mole patients, 40 like infiltrator or fake patients, 40 of them. If it cost the government, let's say $200 to send them in, plus they have to pay them, I mean, we're talking, what, $10,000, $20,000 to pay people to come in and investigate me? Is she really spending an hour with you? What about this praying thing? Is she levitating you off the floor? I mean, I don't know. You know, so anyway, so they knew there were not going to be criminal charges. 40 moles, he estimated, patients coming in, and I'm seeing them and just loving them and probably praying with them, and they're trying to destroy me. So anyway, offense and defense utilize moles and malcontents. So they sent in probably 40 fake patients. Those are the moles. Malcontents, when they went to the Medicaid patients and they were asking them, you know, what about her? You know, what do you think of her? Do you like her? But they were looking for somebody to say, yeah, I don't like that doctor. She, whatever. She didn't do this or she did that. And then they have a means for going after the doctor because they have a complaint. So they get a patient to complain, and then, you know, bingo, that's the grand poobah of let's go after this doctor. God bless my patients, none of them made a complaint. So they had to go to the government had to go to the next step. So anyway, so they utilize moles and malcontents. And basically, so the number one, that's what the government does, and the other, you know, people that are trying to destroy other people. And then the part with the dashed line is what I do. Treat people fairly, document honestly. I mean, when that lady that reported me to the Board of Medical Examiners, when she came in, I mean, she was coming from East Glacier. She's an atheist, a very militant, you know, type of feminist. She's coming all the way from East Glacier to see me. So I kind of knew she was probably, you know, coming to investigate. Or I mean, I can't imagine, why would you go to, you're an atheist and you're going to Hosanna Healthcare. It doesn't make sense. So I kind of figured I don't treat her any differently. I didn't ask her if she wanted to pray, but other than that, I'm just very kind. I took good care of her. So you treat people fairly, you document honestly. Okay, this is what the government and other oppressors do. Threats and other forms of intimidation, creating fear, shame, embarrassment. You know, I never felt fear, never did. I never felt shame. Embarrassment, oh yes, it was extremely embarrassing until I got the warm-hearted response from the community. And how did I fight? With a sense of humor, holding them financially responsible. My little bill, $5,000 bill to the FBI for my trouble. Going public and holding my head high. I mean, I would never do anything intentionally wrong. I mean, that's just not in me. Okay, this is what tyrants do. They isolate, divide, character assassination, make it look legitimate. How do you fight that? Going public, like I said, having community support, God bless you guys, receiving a lot of prayer, having really good documentation. I take really good notes, and others' willingness to stand by me. Okay, this is what the oppressors do. Wear down the opposition, give them no chance to recover. We talked about that. Keep them occupied. Like I have time for all this. You just resilient, intestinal fortitude, knowing the value of the battle, and understanding the value of prayer, and having a lot of people pray for you. Oh, this is one they can get any of y'all on this one. Create so many rules and regulations. Make them vague and subjective so that you can nail anyone. And you know, my pastor, I think it was him, he said once, he said that there are, every person when they walks out the door, from the morning they get up and go to the time they go to bed, they commit like 2 federal crimes or something like that. You know, so they have so many rules and regulations that y'all don't even know about, and you're probably breaking these rules every day. That's intentional. Then if they want to get you for some reason, they can do it. They can get anybody. So just, what can you say? Do the best you can to follow the rules and regulations, document, pray, just be an honest person, do the best you can. Keep the enemy financially depleted. That was pretty easy with me. Prayer, and I did a lot of the investigative work myself. So actually the whole attorney cost was only about $17,000, which there was a doctor that they destroyed emotionally. She won, but it cost her $80,000. $80,000 to fight these people. It cost me $17,000 because I did a lot of the work myself. Who will be victorious in the battle? Some trust in chariots, some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. Psalm 27. Amen. Amen. All right, so this was the settlement agreement. This was January 2014. It is from the United States of America. So I settled with the United States of America, and you guys didn't even know it. Through the United States Attorney of the District of Montana, da-da-da-da-da. It talks about the investigation. It says, book a check, agrees to pay the United States. I hope you guys got like a little check or something. Agrees to pay the United States a sum of $30,000, the settlement amount, on or before January 15, 2014 by electronic funds transfer. And this is really important. This agreement is not an admission of book a check of liability, wrongdoing, or guilt. So why is she paying $30,000 if I never admitted anything? I defended myself really well. Here's what my attorney said, and I think he was right. It's like, Annie, you want this to go away, or do you want to just keep battling this, for the rest of your life? It's cost you this much money. Just settle with them. Pay them their money and get it over with. And I said, okay. I said, but there's two things I want. There's one thing I want in there badly, and there's another thing that I absolutely require, or I will fight them till the day I die. One is I want them to say they won't do this to me again. They wouldn't do that one. But this was my requirement. This agreement is not an admission by book a check of liability, wrongdoing, or guilt. I said, if they don't put something like that in there along those lines, this is a public document. I am not going to settle. Absolutely not. So this was settled. I paid my $30,000. It wasn't $4.5 million. So anyway, kind of breathtaking. But guilty until proven innocent. Multiple insurance company audits over the years. We had people that worked for us that said, man, I have never seen a doctor get audited by insurance companies so often. During the time, this was my average income during their investigation, $66,000 per year, folks. I mean, I make a little more than that now, but the patients that I have, like that work for the railroad that tell me how much they make a lot more than I do. I'm a doctor dedicated to patient service. I love my patients. I love my work. I was voted #1 doctor in the Flatiron. Again, I'm not bragging, but it's just like, I'm a good doctor, and they're going to come in and try to just take me away from my patients. I was known for my quality assurance work. Authorities knew there were no criminal charges, so they knew there was no fraud at the time that they converged on my clinic. They knew there was no fraud. They knew it, but they had to come after me anyway. And one of the things I really emphasize to the doctors, and I'll tell it to you too, if there was something about my billing that they didn't like or they thought might be wrong, why didn't they just send me a letter? Dr. Book a check, we think maybe you're doing this wrong. You're #1 out of the you're number 11. Why don't you, could you get back to us and kind of explain why you bill this way? There was never any of that. Never. Never a letter, never a recommendation, never anything like that. Because they want to get certain people. I'm not sure why, but it could have been handled in a more constructive, more efficient manner. I really made a big point of that with the doctors. And think about it. How easy would it have been if I'm doing something wrong, tell me, I'll fix it. It would have been that simple. So you think the government's your friend? That they're here to help? Has government been a net positive for health care? Not in my opinion. I talked a little bit about that last time. Tyranny, the unjust or otherwise oppressive use of power. This was Thomas Jefferson. Experience has shown that even under the best forms of government, those entrusted with power have in time and by slow operations perverted it into tyranny. Thomas Jefferson, again, the two enemies of the people are criminals and governments. So let us tie the second down with the chains of the Constitution so the second will not become the legal version of the first. Thomas Jefferson. So, I think that I don't know why they came after me. They made me feel very special when they came to my clinic, but I certainly don't think of myself as that. So I don't know why in the world they would pick somebody like me. It did start after I became president of Montana Pro-Life Coalition, and it started in the auditor's office. So I don't know if it has anything to do with that. But I would say that I just, the things that they try to do, they try to scare you. If you're outspoken, they try to shut you up. And then they try to destroy your ability to do your art, your work, and try to destroy you financially. And they weren't able to do any of those to me. So hopefully they'll just leave me alone. So anyway, I think that's it. Any questions? Any questions?
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
it's so good to see you.
Oh, it's very nice to see you.
Your humor in
Oh,
pages.
oh, thank you. I couldn't help myself.
OSHA is such a big
Oh,
word, and they want us to sign all of these documents and say nobody's going to look at our medical records. And then it's kind of so, it's a dichotomy that you had to take our private things and give it to the government.
isn't that something? Yeah, when they came to the clinic, I said, what about HIPAA? You know, it's supposed to protect my patients. I said, what about that? And they said, we're above HIPAA.
Right.
It's like, wow. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really frightening. They can get any of your records anytime. And actually, if you have government insurance, and if you have insurance of any kind, you actually signed that they can get copies of your records at any time. So
You know, if it's
It's all
any,
to help you, though.
it's all to help the patients. Yes, this would be very helpful if you could destroy Dr. Bukacek. That would be
I didn't know I needed help until, the high official says you do need help.
yes.
it's any consolation, though, I have been told by people that I've incarcerated that federal prison's a lot nicer than.
Okay, well that's good. Okay, good. I'm so glad.
We're gonna have to get moving because we're overtime already, and I know Curly's got.
You'll have to finish this sometime.
Yeah, well,
That's what we told her last time, it would be great.
well, I'd be happy to come back anytime. And if you, oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.